I am going to talk about the things I do to stay sober. I've been sober 29 years. For a lot of people, going to meetings are a big part of what they do. It reinforces some of the things they feel they need to do in order to get sober. When back in 1988, when I first quit drinking, I did outpatient counseling. And what I found works for me is imagery. Part of, part of what my counselor advocated that I do is to do things that create an environment which discouraged being around people that use, around situations that were reminded me of my days of drinking and hanging around with people who were a part of my time when I used. And a lot of what I used was imagery from different movies, predominantly Rocky movies, because if you think deep into some of the dialogue, a lot of that is Rocky goes through a lot of struggles through different movies, things that maybe he hasn't uh, encountered before, difficulties, because in life we all encounter difficulties in life that crop up when we least expect it. Learning how to face adversity and work through it. And when you see a problem, facing it instead of trying to go around it. Because if you go around it, it's still there. Um, I also used music lyrics that would be positive to me as far as getting getting past things, even when I was working through things. Sometimes you encounter people who are just being difficult. They don't understand some of the challenges that you face day to day, stressors that make you maybe when you were actively drinking or using drugs if you did that, which I've not done. Um, those would be triggers that would make you want to drink. And what I would do is I I kind of imprinted a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the lyrics, dialogue from movies and the lyrics from songs into my head. So when something would come up that would make me want to use, those things would pop into my head, and I would it would reinforce for me to not use. And a lot of time during my recovery, even when I was working with people who work mostly in restaurants, and a lot of times working in the restaurant atmosphere, you work with a lot of people that, although they may not be to the point where they are alcoholic, though you surmise they may have a problem, you try to throw little things out. And I'm always very open about my recovery. I always have been from day one. And my counselor, she thought that I shouldn't be so open and share that, but to me, hiding that you're in recovery also means it's like a secret that's there that other people aren't aware of. This is who I am, and I can. I have been able after some time. I was able to, when I felt confident enough, I I was able to go back into situations where there was some drinking. I tend to avoid it, but there are some times where you just want to be around people, work situations, family, but you have to build up a lot of those things inside your head and know that there are places you can't go because once you let thinking that it's just you can get by one time, you're back to square one. And there are, you know, with different people with addictions, there are people who have legal difficulties, and sometimes when you fall off, you can end up getting yourself into more trouble. And that's a hard thing. Um, I'm probably unusual in the fact that once I decided I wanted to quit drinking. I enacted these different things I've done, and I've I've held my feet to the fire, and I wouldn't let myself slip. I also have I at a certain point in time, a few years in my recovery, I made a list of different people that I admired and that they went through certain difficulties or they became prominent for different things. And I used to, it was a list for 8 people. And some of these people were people who had been through recovery or they went through difficult things. In my experience, I found that I unwittingly, unknowingly, many of the people that are on this list also went through different recovery issues or um, faced different physical challenges. And part of recovery not only is a mental, but it is a physical. And you have to be able to do both. And going to meetings for some people is rewarding. I've gone a few times. For me, not rewarding. For many others, it can be. Biggest part about it is knowing what you want to be, what kind of person you want to be, and how you want to live your life. And living a life of being addicted and wasting days and hours using. I look back and I probably was a hardcore alcoholic for close to 7 or 8 years of my life, from my late teens to my mid 20s. Well, that for most people is the most important part of your life. The most, getting into college and finding yourself an occupation. To me, there is a line that's used in Rocky when Rocky asked Mickey, "Why are you giving me such a hard time?" And Mickey says to him, "You could have been so much more." And Mickey said, and Rocky said back to him, "It's a living." And Mickey says to him, "It's a wasted life." And every time I thought about using and drinking or people using, I always, that phrase, "it's a waste of life." There are so many more productive things a person can do with themselves than waste it on drugs or alcohol, finding pleasure in things that are, to me, a life with drinking and drugs is empty. You're not accomplishing anything. And we're all given a finite time to be on this earth. To be able to do something that can reach other people and help them understand how much they waste their life using instead of doing something that can enrich themselves and also enrich others. Or about, and what I found over the years, one of the people that helped me passed away, and I realized that I hadn't done much with myself. What I found, I started volunteering with a grief group. I had a lot of issues from my past. I hadn't worked on an inventory of everything, and part of this is me not going to meetings and working on steps. And when at this point, I went back and I looked at what the steps were, and I worked most of them. But one of the things I didn't do is work the inventory, and there was an inventory of things that I hadn't looked at. And what I found is I started looking at different things, and when I started to work on the things, life is like a tapestry, and sometimes if you have loose threads, tapestry isn't complete. And when I was able to come to a an understanding of some of the things that were incomplete, I found peace with myself. I and one in order to maintain sobriety and peace with oneself, you have to be able to understand all the paths that lead you to where you end up. So, I mean, different little tricks that I learned with the music lyrics in films and people I admired. The most important thing was to do the inventory of myself, things that the untidy parts of myself that I didn't want to look at. And I looked at them and I was able to find answers as best I could. Years later, a complete answer, but you do the best that you can. And you have to find peace in that and realize that there's only so much you can do. But if you do the best to keep yourself working towards being in sobriety and making yourself the best that you can be and being good to others and sharing your experiences. What ends up happening is you get as much back as what you give. Sometimes you get more. And we all have to realize that we all live imperfect lives. And sometimes family members or friends put stigma upon us and make us feel bad. And that in turn allows us not, it makes us not want to look at it where we're failing. And sometimes it's not just us that's failing, but it's the situation that's letting us down. And if we can look at ourselves honestly and know that we're doing as much as we can for ourselves and accept the imperfections that we all have, people who are drinking and people who are not. And sometimes we have family members that enable us to use. And if you can pull yourself far enough away from people in order to take care of yourself, that is the most important piece. I have 29 years of sobriety, and there are things that sometimes don't make everything, the answers aren't always clear. But to sit back and do nothing, that doesn't help you. That doesn't resolve whatever is inside you that you feel isn't right. You have to work on yourself.